Minnesota Timberwolves next. They have the same win total as the Nuggets, 52.5 wins. Last year, they won 56 games, were the number 3 seed in the Western Conference, made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals, just short of Jackson's bold prediction of an NBA Finals appearance. But very, very good prediction. I've been giving Jackson the credit for that because no one really could have saw that coming at the beginning of the season, and it worked. They had one of the best defensive units in the entire league. And they are still looking pretty good. Here's their roster, Jackson, with your Timberwolves. Let's get it started. What's your question about the Timberwolves?
I mean, just looking at their roster, I think they got way better. Like, I think they have the best, like, 1-2 punch for off the bench. It reminds me of like Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell a couple years ago for the Clippers. But I think they have a better starting lineup than the Clippers to go along with that. I think Dillingham and Naz Reid are going to be a lethal bench combo. And I think Joe Ingles brings a really, really good amount of maturity to this bench unit as well. But, I mean, looking at the starting lineup, I mean, I think Ant is going to take an even bigger step this year. I think he averaged 26 last year. I think we could see him eclipsing 30 this year potentially. I think Cat's going to, he's got to prove that he earned that contract. So I think he's going to play a lot better this year too. And I think they're hungry for a championship. I think they have their leader, and I think he's going to push that team like Michael Jordan did, like Kobe did, like LeBron has done in the past to kind of win, because he wants to win. Rudy wants to. I mean, they all want to win. Obviously, that's the main game. But I think they're going to ball out. I think they're going to take their defense to another level. I think Jaden McDaniels could even get better on offense because he showed that in the playoffs, that first round series. He had multiple good games. And even throughout the playoffs, we saw glimpses of him being a really, really, really good scorer. I don't think he's going to be a 25-point per game scorer, but I could see 18, 19 game. Maybe not this year, but I think the Timberwolves are going to be ready to play. And I think their bench got a lot better. I think even if it's just Dillingham, I think their bench is going to be a lot better. I think the bench has energy. I think they're going to be so fun to watch.
Is there a big question mark you're looking out for being so big on Minnesota? Is there a weakness you're kind of looking at? We definitely should improve on this if we want to win a chip.
I mean, it could be can someone else step up and kind of be that Jamal Murray for Ant, like that Jamal Murray type of Robin for Ant, like the Batman or the Joker to the Batman in a way, because I mean, Cat's good, but Cat scares me a lot. Cat scares me on both ends of the floor. I think he's their liability in the starting lineup on defense. I mean, Mike Conley, obviously, because of his size, but he's even, for a point guard, he's a very good defender, in my opinion, just from watching last year. But Cat, he just doesn't move the needle for me. Like I said, for Westbrook, he just, I don't know. I think it's going to be tough for them with that. But I think he's kind of like their X factor. If he plays well, sky's the limit for this team. But if Cat doesn't improve off of last year, because last year he was good. I mean, he was a great player. Don't get me wrong, but he just, I don't know. He was underwhelming.
I was honestly going to say the same thing. Cat is the weakness in that starting lineup, which is wild to say because first off, he is a better player than most of those guys outside of Ant, but I want to see it more consistently. Jaden McDaniels is perfect in his role as a 3-and-D guy, and he's one of the best. Mike Conley is the playmaker. He's the floor general. He is perfect at that. Rudy Gobert is the big man in the middle. Perfect at that. Ant is your MVP. Perfect at that. Cat needs to be that Robin. He 100%. But if he can do that, I tend to agree with you. This might be one of the most complete teams in the entire NBA. That bench is so good. I was really high on Terrence Shannon Jr. in college, and he's 3 down on behind Ant Edwards. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in fully infused into that second unit with Dillingham, Naz Reid, and all that, and he could go off this year. I love that dude from Illinois.
How tall is he? I'm gonna look.
I don't know, but he's like an ant type. He can jump out of a building.
Yeah, he's a Wayne.
He's 6'6", so even if they wanted to, they could run him. Because Joe Ingles isn't gonna. I don't think Joe Ingles is gonna like, not necessarily play a ton of minutes. I could see them kind of like running, either him or Nikhil at the 3, sometimes on the backup bench unit. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed like to them doing that. But I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, the sky's the limit for this team. I'm so excited.
I know Joe Ingles is perfect. I'm not gonna lie. Papa Joe still got something. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Nick, do you have any questions regarding the Timberwolves?
Yeah, definitely. Here's the thing. I mean, on paper, they're great. They made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals last year, and then they had one of the best drafts, probably the second best draft in the division behind the Jazz. I really like the players the Jazz took. But, I mean, Dillingham at 8 and Terrence Shannon at 23 was really solid draft night for a team that went to the Western Conference Finals the previous year. So, on paper, like, everything adds up, and they should be poised to make it back there. But, like, what you guys are saying about Cat being the X factor, I kind of like there's some skepticism there about, you know, is he going to be able to do enough next to Ant to make it happen? Because he's going to have to, like, when the Minnesota Timberwolves aren't looking their best, like, there's no questions about them on defense. It's their offense that, like, who's going to create shots if Ant is missing his mid-range jumpers? Who's going to be knocking down threes because they only have Jaden McDaniels and, like, Mike Conley. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a great, I think, wing guy that plays both ends. And I just want to say this. I haven't had the opportunity to say this. Canada should have played him a lot more in the Olympics.
Yeah. Yes, they should have.
But, you know, I mean, they lost Kyle Anderson. They lost Monte Morris. They lost Jordan McLaughlin. They lost a couple rotation guys. And so you're going to be relying on these 2 new rookies to have especially an impact on offense. And that's kind of where my skepticism comes in, along with, like, Cat being the X factor.
That's exactly my questions about this team. It honestly is the depth, because their bench, it did get, in my opinion, it did get a little bit worse on paper, because Rob Dillingham, I was a huge fan of watching him during the summer league. He looks like a player that definitely will become the future point guard for the Minnesota Timberwolves in a couple of years. But right now, he's a rookie point guard coming in on a team that has high aspirations, high expectations. In the NBA, the toughest position to come into as a rookie is that point guard position. And his starter, Mike Conley was great last season. He is only getting older. He's going to be 37 years old next season. You don't know what that could mean for him. And, you know, the Timberwolves, there are guys like, you know, Karl Anthony Towns. He is a you know, big question when it comes to playoff time. Honestly, in the regular season, I know he was a questionable all-star player last year. We were all going crazy when it was announced that he made it. But he is still a great player in the regular season. His numbers are fantastic. His efficiency is amazing. So I think, you know, their starting unit, it's obviously great. They're going to be amazing defensively once again. Anthony Edwards could make another jump. That would be fantastic. But my question is their bench, because Kyle Anderson was a nice piece for them, was able to, you know, create offense for other players. Joe Ingles, another old guy stepping in there. I don't know how much he's going to be able to play. And if, you know, Joe Ingles doesn't really work out at that position, they really don't have a backup 4. You know, if things don't really work out for this team or for those bench players and they get injured, or the starters get injured, it's going to be tough for them, you know, come playoff time, because they're going to be relying on, like you guys said, or like Nick said, rookies. And it's tough, you know, coming in, you know, to this type of situation. But those are really my main questions, because this team, it does look great defensively. I mean, they say defense wins championships, and they've got some of the best defense in the league. I mean, I don't see why they couldn't make it back to a Western Conference final. To me, their ceiling is a finals appearance. But there are definitely some teams that could, you know, stop them along the way. I'll say that.
I guess my bold predict. Go ahead, Jackson.
I was just going to say that for Rob Dillingham, I'm actually so excited for him to, like, not sit behind, but, like, kind of sit behind Mike Conley, even if it's just for like a year or two, because I think it could be like Aaron Rodgers with Jordan Love, if anyone watches football. I think it could be like that. Like this vet who, I mean, obviously Mike Conley isn't an MVP type player, but like just this vet who's like he's been a great player at the position for a very long time, and he's mentoring this like younger person who has a ton of talent, but just has a lot of things that he can like kind of tune up and get better at. I think that's a perfect situation for Rob Dillingham. Kind of
I don't
being
know.
behind him, like
I'm not as high on Rob as you guys seem to me because he is only 6'1", and he's gonna like his play style requires him to hit a lot of tough shots if he's gonna make an impact.
Yeah.
And like the dude is 19. Like if they're not falling and he's got a lot of pressure on him to fill like that backup spot on a championship caliber team, like it could go south pretty quick, I think. I guess my forward
true.
prediction would be I think Terrence is going to have a bigger impact than Rob, especially like in the beginning of the year. Like maybe it takes Rob a little bit of time to get his feet wet. And then towards the end, like he kind of picks it up, starts averaging close to like double digits or something. But I think Terrence Shannon, this guy who plays, he can do everything on offense, and he's an athletic freak. I think he's just going to have a bigger impact right from the jump for the Wolves.
I completely
Yeah, I
agree.
don't mind
As I say, I like Dillingham, but you're 100% right. He's small. He's 19. Might take him a couple years, and then he could be really good. And he
Yeah.
does, like you said, Goglin, he does have the perfect person to mentor under. Like, if you're going to make a football reference, I'll make one. Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes. Like, you never know what's going to happen. It's the perfect mentorship. But I am also extremely high on Terrence Shannon. I think he's going to be the big rookie on that team over Dillingham. I think he could come out of the gate just getting immediate minutes off the bench and just providing a spark. I'm going to take the over, by the way, for them. Probably around the same, I would say, for the Nuggets, just because the Western Conference is so tough. This division is so tough, and they play each team 4 times. So I'm going to probably say around that 55 mark win as well, but still the over.
Yeah, I'll go with that as well. Moving forward for this team, they definitely do have some questions as far as their contracts go. We talked about it a lot during the season.
Caps.
Karl Anthony Towns still under that, massive contract for still a few more seasons. Rudy Gobert is a $46 million player option for next year. He'll probably accept that. Still, defensive player of the year. But Naz Reid is the question for me. Obviously, last year's 6th man of the year. He's got a $15 million player option for next year. And with the Timberwolves, they're going to have to make a decision because Naz Reid, his value with the way the cap is going up as, a great, bench player, very good, player across the whole entire league. His value may be 18 million a year, 18, 19 million a year at this point. And if that is the case, depending on what Rudy Gobert would get with his contract, you'd be paying like $120 million next season for basically one position. And I don't know if the Timberwolves want to be doing that going forward. So they're going to have to make some decisions. I know Jackson has he wants Karl Anthony Towns. He thinks that he's the player that could potentially get traded. But then there are still questions I have with that because then I feel like it hurts the depth of the Timberwolves depending on who comes back. So they just got a lot of questions going into next season. But as far as this season, they should be great in the regular season, and they're going to have a chance in the playoffs again like they did last season.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the standings again from last year. I think they'll probably be around 57, 58. That's kind of where OKC and Denver were last year, and I think they're going to overtake Denver at least. And I think they're going to be right up there with OKC. So I think like 57, 58. I think they'll still be behind OKC. But I think their ceiling is higher than Denver this year. And their floor is I think their floor is like on par, if not a little better than Denver. I don't know though. Denver does have that one guy.
Yeah, they do have the best player in the world. So automatically I put them like I put them automatically at home court advantage team, the Denver Nuggets. Minnesota, not that long ago, it was just 2 seasons ago where they were a playing team. So I think the floor, and they basically have the same roster. So just 2 years separated from that, the floors are definitely, I would definitely take the Nuggets floor over the Timberwolves, but the ceiling's very, very similar. That would be a great matchup if we got that in the playoffs once again.